What has simultaneously gotten worse and more expensive? Cable television. More commercials. Channels upon channels of crap. Ridiculous bill. I remember when you could watch a show on cable without any commercials. That was its big selling point. I swear that Reese's peanut butter cups have gotten shittier over the years. The peanut butter seems chalkier and the chocolate tastes blander. Plus I can't ever seem to pry them out of that little cup wrapper without leaving the bottom chocolate skin stuck to it. I think the push to put them in the freezer and eat them chilled is a ploy to cover the declining quality. I just buy the cheap store brands since they use thicker chocolate and better peanut butter. Aldi has some amazing mini peanut butter cups. They blow Reese's out of the water. Buffalo Wild Wings. I don't know if it's just me, but their prices have gone up and the quality has gone down. Restaurants follow this pattern. Mid-high tier national franchise restaurants trends. Panera, Five Guys, Chipotle, Buffalo Wild Wings. It's the place to be. The food's good and priced reasonably years but. Food still good, but slightly more expensive years butted. Food had degraded noticeably in quality, but because of the established brand they charge the same, if not raise prices slightly. People still go, but begin mumbling years but. Food is a shell of its former self at prices higher than ever before. No one eats there anymore, but they might scrap by, because if they sell one meal they paid rent. This is Panera Bread right now, and this has been their timeline edit. Five Guys is, and always has been consistent quality. Panera used to be the shut. In college, my friends and I practically feasted on bread bowls. Now I just don't go. Smaller portions. Stale bread. Poorly made soup. Such a shame. College tuition. When I hear college used to be paid with a summer job, my eyes get watery. I'm a college student. I didn't pay for mine on a summer job, but worked nights and lived alone and could take 3 kilobits a semester plus summer kilobits and paid 1/3 rent with the money I made. Crazy. I did the math for my school, and buttoming I got cheap rent. While splitting in my city it would be $500 per month to me. And since my school does this weird flat thing where anything above 12 credits is the same cost as 12 credits, I know what my tuition would be. With books and fees it comes out to about $22K annually including rent. If I want to calculate what my hourly would need to be I have to consider taxes and social security etc. So being very conservative about it, I set aside 30% of my pay for those things, so I need to make about 22K equals $28. 6K. Now I'm an adult, so that is 12 months of rent, and no summer clubs to pay for. If I was working full time I would need to make 28,600/52 weeks then /40 hours per week. That comes to $13.75 an hour. And that is buttoming. I don't need a car, or clothes or a bus or food. That doesn't even cover food, or cell phone and internet, which are essentials. It doesn't cover out-of-pocket medical costs, like globits which I absolutely need. It doesn't include anything like drinking or going out with people, which is part of college. And at bottomed I can work 40 hours while going to school. And I will say that when I was in college for engineering there definitely was not way I'd have survived if I did that. So yeah, I gotta say there is no ducking way my school in my town was gonna be covered by working flipping burgers like what my parents' generation could do. Privacy and anonymity. Sadly, that is true. My university education, specifically this year, they are raising tuition, and fall semester has no in-person sessions. I don't envy college students during this crisis. I would be pissed, especially if I had a major dependent on university facilities, labs, etc. Close bracket. I honestly would highly consider a gap year or two. College kids of Reddit. Are any schools offering a gap year as an option? Colleges don't offer gap years. You just don't register and then come back. You'll probably have to reapply. I can't imagine Hay wouldn't let you back in unless you were basically already failed out. People outside the UK probably won't care, but the Christmas tins of Quality Street. Canadian here. Yes, we do care. When Quality Streets go on clearance after Christmas, I stock up so I have some last until the following Christmas. Not that they last until then. Firstly, you are my chocolate hero. I doubt I could make them last past late January. Secondly, have the switch to the depressingly small plastic containers in Canada. I want my giant metal tins back. Clothes. Even a sweater from the Gap is like $70 now, even though the quality is about 10% better than Old Navy. Goddammit clothes retailers. Settle down or I will go naked. Edit. To the people suggesting thrift stores. I agree. It's thrilling to find something special and cheap. You wash it, you're good to go. Plus retail clothing is so effing expensive nowadays that I would rather someone else take the hit of driving it off the lot. What I hate about this is all the brand names are super expensive, but they are still all made by slaves in poor countries. I would be willing to pay the higher price if it was actually made in Canada or US, but it's not. I remember the donuts at Dunkin' Donuts to be bigger and cheaper, and there was a huge selection of flavors every day when donuts were their main thing. Now, with all of the sandwiches, breakfast foods, shakes, smoothies, etc., donuts are an afterthought. All Cadbury's products. Kraft ruined it. As Kraft does. Scented candles. Yankee Candle in particular used to be the candle that was considered premium. But while they've never been cheap, at least a while ago it was worth the money. But now they are just exorbitant in price. They don't smell like they used to, and they are not worth the money. I'm sure this will get overlooked, but KFC. I remember growing up a whole family could eat there, and it was great. Now it's just garbage. Super greasy. And will cost you an arm and a leg for a dang bucket of chicken. They have gotten way worse and the price has went up. Yeah, I remember big styrofoam cylinders stuffed with sides. Now it's $5 for a frozen dinner bowl's worth. I thought it was grown up self-thinking that KFC had changed. Ice cream with fudge in it. Used to get buttered slabs of fudge, now they just have tiny nuggets. I can pretty much only stand to buy Ben & Jerry's these days. It ruined other frozen dairy desserts for me. All of the brownies that Ben & Jerry's use come from a bakery that hires ex-convicts and homeless people. They do it to help people get back on their feet. I love that. Photo booths. Oh, the old ones were so cool. 4 different real photos for $1. Now you pay $7 for 4 identical bad laser prints. Just wait until you try to book one for a wedding. $1,500 for an iPad on a stick with a ring light and printer for 4 hours. This is why we bought all the supplies and just made one ourselves. Super easily. Literally bought a backdrop and frame. All the fancy lighting, props, tablet stand, color printer, and even the little clicker thing to press when to take the photo. All of that off of Amazon. For less than 1/3 the price we were quoted to rent one from a company. And now we have a photo booth, lol. We can be that cool couple that can bring a whole photo booth setup anytime we are invited to our friends' weddings, parties, events, etc. New homes. Cookie cutter houses. Built with cheap contractors who cut corners left and right. Situated in neighborhoods with ever higher HOA fees. And the HOAs are getting more expensive too. I agree with this one. I thought buying a newly built home would be great. Turns out everything is cheap. Those nice looking baseboards, particle board, cabinets, particle board, nice front door. It's plastic and warps when the temperature changes. Everything looks nice, but at the core it's all super cheap material that was installed as fast as possible by the cheapest bidder. Yep, I finally found myself in a position to buy a house 2 years ago and figured I'd start by looking at new construction. So I went to a tour of new homes. Well, those 4 hours were enough to convince me I definitely didn't want new build. Everything was built cheaply, and some of them, I was pretty worried about their location, too close on flat land to waterways. So I wound up buying a house built in 1962. It's got some quirks, but it's well built and been well loved by the previous owners. Dry and warm in the winter, well shaded in the summer cause the trees have had decades to grow. Everything Nestle takes over. Smarties. Never been right since they got rid of all the artificial colors. Better for you, I'm sure. But chemical blue was the best flavor. Spot the Canadian. But yes, it does taste different. Grocery store ice cream. As long as it's labeled ice cream. Probably worth it, since dairy costs have risen. The cheap brands compensated rising dairy costs by reducing the amount of dairy in the product and is actually listed as frozen dessert or something of that nature instead of actual ice cream. Needs to have a certain percent of cream. Not sure what. Certain house appliances. My grandma has had the same fridge for 40 years. My parents recently had to replace this. It's their third in 20 years. On the other hand, you don't want a 40-year-old fridge because they are super energy inefficient. Good point. Next time I'll visit her, I'll check the wattage. Size of bags of chips. I mean, the bags have gotten bigger, but suddenly they need to sell you more air as well. It's for padding, right? Ice cream containers that were originally 1/2 gallon have been shrinking. They went from 64 ounces to 56 ounces and now 48 ounces. But the price hasn't shrunk. It's been increasing steadily, and the quality often isn't as good as it used to be when containers were a true 1/2 gallon. When I worked at a gas station, I noticed the same thing with Pringles. The tubes would shrink in height by about 1/8 of an inch every month or so. Once they got small enough, they would release a new bigger size for a month with a higher price tag. They would then remove the bigger size tag and begin the shrinking process again. I always thought those were bigger when I was a kid. As someone shopping for a house, I have to say homes. Not only has the real estate market been ridiculously inflated, especially in New York City, my residence, I'm finding that the actual quality of a lot of these homes are absolute shit. Due to the ability to find and source cheap materials and labor, developers are able to make huge profits off high prices and low costs. It's making me really rethink if I want to buy a house or just use all that money to aggressively invest. It's not just New York City or cities in general. I live in a rural town about an hour from the nearest 100k plus city, and home prices are ridiculous compared to local wages. Most of the homes around here are bought cash only because banks won't even finance them due to the general condition. Roofs 20 plus years old, shoddy wiring, etc., without spending a fortune in repairs. For something the banks will look at, with 3+ bedrooms and 1500 SQFT or so, you're looking at $250k plus, even in the worst parts of town. That's with a median household income in the area under $40k. So yeah, I know it costs a lot in the city, but even in areas that were considered low cost of living not very long ago, the cost isn't so low now. I just saw an article that minimum wage can't pay for average rent in a single US state. Wage stagnation has screwed 99% of us. And now the biggest landlords are hedge funds. You can't get a crack house in LA for less than $700k. Disney theme parks. Speaking pre-COVID world, they were better when you could do an entire park in a day. Cost much less, like $40 vs whatever the insane price is now. And they limited who could get in. Universal is the same way. Specifically Halloween Horror Nights. It was $15 the first time I went. They capped how many tickets they sold, and you had time to do every house plus a couple of rides. It was my favorite and we would go every year. Now, it's like $70 for a ticket. You have to buy fast, but for another $30 or $40, just so you have a chance to do every house, because the lines can literally be hours long, because they don't cap ticket sales, and they recycle the same houses, but pretend it's a new theme. It's so miserable we stopped going. While I agree the prices have skyrocketed over the last 10 to 15 years, Disney has never limited how many people could get in on a normal park day. They only turn people away when the parks hit capacity and you don't want to go to a capacity park. Also, the parks, pre-COVID, have never had more or better attractions than right now. I don't necessarily think it justifies the price hikes though. Exception for Epcot Center. I miss the old Epcot. There used to be this burger joint called Joe's Cab Block near me. Great place. I miss it so much. a few months before it closed down. I was there and the owner, Joe, was having a heated conversation with one of his suppliers on the phone. After he hung up, he looked over at me and just said, "Price goes up, quality goes down." It took me a while to realize that that wasn't an whole supplier he was dealing with, just a fact of life. People like Joe can't tolerate that. That's why the truly great things never last. Only the mediocre things are able to endure long enough to degrade into the universally hated embodiment of entropy that the physical world allows for. It's the commodification of things. They lose their quality and uniqueness and become something to be pumped out at high volume, and generally with reduced quality as prices slowly go up over time. Praise be to Costco and their big hot dog and soda combo for $1.50. You haven't changed in 35 years. Face razors. They had it perfected with double-edged blades and a metal razor. Cheap and incredible shades. Modern plastic disposable razors are worse on your skin, give a worse shave, and grotesquely expensive. They are nothing more than monopolists controlling the availability and accessibility. When you go to the razor section at the store, you can only choose from their garbage. I give double-edged metal razors to men and women loved ones as gifts, and universally their minds are blown realizing how much better and less expensive they are. I love safety razors. Perfect in almost every way. Absolutely. From price to shave to razor burn. I am, to quote Fleetwood Mac, never going back again. Plus, got a pack of 300 Astra razor blades for $8. I used to buy 2 packs for that much. You should be asking what hasn't. Weed. Health insurance. Got 'em. Last year we ran out of money in our HSA in July. We were paying for everything out of pocket after that and praying for no major medical expenses. And we have Blue Cross Blue Shield. And it ain't cheap. What the hell are we paying for? This year has been a bit better. Ironically, because of Corona we haven't gone anywhere or done anything. So we actually have money in the HSA. Now we are like, what do we do with this money if we still have it in December? New buds for everybody? Blue Cross Blue Shield has become such trash. It is so expensive, and they don't even cover very much. $450 copay for visits, and I had to pay for my root CA*ALS out of pocket. $1. $200 each. I would have just gotten my teeth pulled, but they were both in the front. Clothes. Very few companies make clothes to last, and fast fashion is rising, while the cost of items continue to increase. Almost everything. Planned obsolescence and expediency has taken the place of quality and craftsmanship. Food. Unless you make it yourself. Even then ingredient quality is lacking, unless you're dropping way too much money. That's really sad. And true. If you want to eat clean, well, just forget about it. Eating dirty ain't cheap either. Who wants to pay $10 for a shitty quarter pounder? As a somewhat older person born in the late 60s, ducking everything. Clothes fall apart and there are no batik styles anymore, unless you want to pay out the nose. Christmas ornaments are just junk now. It's heartbreaking when I think about my teens and 20s. My first job and apartment I could rent with cash left over for concerts on the reg. It was awesome, and I'm now wondering what's left. If I didn't have an aunt and mom who care so much about me, I'd probably just give up the ghost. I've had my good years, and now trying to re-enter the employment market and try to adult again is disheartening. I could never afford an apartment on my own anymore, and I don't get along well with a lot of people. I value my privacy. It's a college world out there now, and with only a HS education and even with 15 years of admin experience, people pay absolute shit, and my work ethic has taken a deep dive, because if I make things more efficient, they'll get rid of me and hire a part-timer rather than give a raise or anything. Never used to be that way. Then again, there were no human resources departments back then. It was just a small personnel office. The name alone shows how companies think of their people. Just a resource. Edit. Wow. I didn't expect my little diatribe to get so much attention. Thanks. It's a college world out there now. I'm floored by this statement. You're so profoundly and absolutely right. I'm a millennial, and not going to college was never an option. Sometimes I wonder if there's any track in life that's going okay anymore. It's depressing to think about. Thanks for your comment and your perspective tonight. College education in the US. Honestly, this is a great point and needs more upvotes. My dad paid off his school year with a summer job. I pay off 1 year with 5 years of work and gradual repayment with interest. There's the perspective that online learning is just as good, which can be a fair point to make sometimes, but with the price of education staying the same even for these online courses, a comparison is to be made. Will the teachers be as integrated with their students? What of an intimate classroom setting where you get to view the reactions of your peers and have a fluid conversation? I think it will depend on the class, whether it can be done effectively, but I don't think it's worth $50,000 per year. Access to the same facilities, resources, etc. is definitely lacking with online learning. Education has also predominantly become a business, and for many institutions this way of business has degraded at the quality of education as dollars are stowed to pay the higher ranked staff. I can't say more money isn't better, but there are diminishing returns. As an observer, the next couple decades are going to be pretty fascinating for higher education. There's no traditional bubble to be burst, a la housing, because it's much harder to wipe out student loans. It's going to be interesting to see whether traditional college becomes too expensive except for the elite, or people are going to continue to take on more and more loans. I think it's likely we'll see a much higher instance of people doing 2 years at a community college and transferring those credits to complete a degree at a name brand school, and increasingly stronger pushes to reduce tuition at those name brand schools. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you want more videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. You are helping me a lot. Thanks again.